Good morning, everybody. Again, if you're out in Fellowship Hall, if you could be working your way in, we'd appreciate it. We'd like to get our meeting started this morning. Again, as you're coming in, please make sure you sign in with our tellers. Again, if you have not signed in, please do so. We're just kind of waiting for Rochelle Bailing. Our clerk is here now, who's downstairs. What? I did not email you back. Everything you sent through was obviously spot on like you. Okay. Good morning. Article 8 of the Constitution and bylaws of our congregation requires that in addition to an annual corporate meeting, 2 congregational meetings of the members of the congregation shall be held each year. These meetings shall provide opportunities for communication and updates from the various ministries, project groups, committees, and leadership team with the members of the congregation. All active members of the congregation are eligible to fully participate. Visitors are welcome to this meeting, but are requested to refrain from direct participation. All church members who are present are requested to confirm their presence for the record by signing one of the attendance sheets that are being circulated. If you are watching online, please register your presence by emailing Amy Drua at her email address you should have, or texting her at her phone number, which also you should have. According to Article 8 of our bylaws, 10% of the stated active membership shall constitute a quorum to transact business at a meeting of the church. The stated membership as of this date is 473. Therefore, I call upon Church Clerk Rochelle Bailing to verify that we have at least 48 members present.
We have 427, so that has changed.
427?
427.
Okay, so then we would only need 43. We do have a quorum. We'll get the number in just a second here. What are we at right now?
We have more than quorum.
Okay, we have more than a quorum for that. So, I would also like to identify those who have agreed to serve as our tellers for this meeting. They will be Chris Mall, Rich Pershon, and Dan Maloney. If any member has a question or comment, just raise your hand. The tellers will come to you. Please remember to always state your name when you speak so we will have an accurate record. Please use the microphone so all present can hear and so our webcast, the meeting, can record these proceedings. If you are participating online, you can email or text Amy Drua and she will speak for you. Also, according to Article 8 of our bylaws, all meetings of this church shall be conducted according to Robert's Rules of Order. In order that parliamentary procedure is followed, I have appointed Mike Higbee as our parliamentary procedure consultant for this meeting. I now call to order the fall congregational meeting of 2017 of the First Congregational United Church of Christ of Oconomowoc Incorporated. I'd like to call upon Pastor David Schnepp to offer our opening prayer.
I'd like to begin our devotional time by offering a prayer that was written by Dr. Walter Brueggemann, a teacher of mine at Eden, and he used to begin our classes with the most incredible prayers, and I'd like to share one of those with you. Will you pray with me? You are the voice that we can scarcely hear because you speak to us about dying and suffering, and we are impacted by so many voices that have to do with power and competence and success. We do not know that you are the voice that gives life, that you are the voice that opens futures to people who are hopeless. We are part of a hopeless people because the other voices eat at our hearts, and we are immobilized and we become deaf. So we pray for new ears. We pray that your voice may be more audible to us and that we may be able to sort out the death-giving from the life-giving voices among us. For we pray in the name of Jesus, through whom you have spoken in such inscrutable ways. Lord, as we gather here this day to conduct our annual meeting, we humbly ask that you would not only allow us to hear that voice of yours that we can scarcely hear, but also to have the courage to take steps to follow it. For we ask this in the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Both of our co-treasurers, Jim Natalizio and Bill Palmer, are out of town today and will not be available here to give us an update on the church financial situation. I was going to ask Joe Leinen, chairman of the administrative ministry, to do that, but we got a message late last night that his mother and father-in-law were involved in a very serious car accident, and Joe and his wife are traveling to be with them this morning. So I guess I will present the church financial. So if any of you have not received a copy of the church financial report, just raise your hand and Chris Small or one of the other tellers can bring that around for you. I'd also like to welcome to the podium Cindy Wellman. Cindy is our newly hired bookkeeper. We're going to ask her to present the report, but just to answer any questions that we might have, and she can probably help with that. Again, this is going to be very brief, but I guess what I'd like to just highlight, if you have one of the sheets, again, these took me about 3 years to figure out how to read them. So if you're having trouble with that, I understand, and one of the administrative ministry or one of us can help if you need it. But I think one of the things that's very interesting is that if you look at the first page, about a little over, just under halfway down, over on the right-hand side, it gives a percentage of the budget. And the top part there is our income. Currently, we are at 79.7% of our income that we expect for this year. This is through the end of September, where we should be at about 75%. So as I read this, one of the very positive things about this is that we are actually ahead of our income. If you look at the top at the pledges are at 75.9%, so they're right on schedule. So again, thank you for all of you that have been pledging to keeping up your pledges, and we anticipate, again, very often in November, December, an increase. So hopefully that is a very positive thing to look at for this next year. The other thing that I should also have you note is that the Craft Fest numbers don't appear to be in here right now. So there will be an additional income, and maybe Amy can talk about this later on, but we don't have those numbers in the budget. So again, financially, income-wise, we're doing very well. Then if you turn to the second sheet, let me have you turn to the back of the first sheet. Down at the very bottom of the page, again, if you look at total expenses, again, if you look over on the right-hand side, the percentage-wise there is at 76.6%. So again, we're at about 75%. We're running right at or just above what we expect as far as our expenses. But the good news is the income percentage is higher than the expense percentage. So again, if we can hold our expenses for the last couple months of this year, we should be in relatively good shape as far as the books go. There were several items that as you look through here, you might notice that they are over 100%. There are several different things where our expenses have ended up costing us more than our budgeted amount, and that's why those amounts are high. And again, if you have any questions about any of those, we can try to answer those. So, anything you want to say?
Maybe just one comment.
Okay.
Just for detail, because that's what I'm for, I can point out that all bills that were due in the month of October have been paid, but not all income that has been received has been posted into the accounting system. So it's actually even better than you would see here. And we will get that income posted. You mentioned the Craft Fest. Yeah, okay? And hi, my name's Cindy.
Anybody have any questions about the Treasurer's report this time? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, at this time, I'd like to call on Pastor Schneff to come up and present the pastor's report.
You've listened to me for 20 minutes this morning, so this is going to be brief. Maybe that's better. Since we met at our last congregational meeting, one of the important events that happened this last summer was Godstock. And I'd like to say a word of thanks to Luke and to Patty and to many others who have helped with that and made it a success the first time around. We will be having Godstock 18. And we hope to attract some really well-known artists to come to it. We will be making changes to it as we improve it from things that we've learned from last year, but we will need help and volunteers as we do that this coming summer. And that we are trying to find ways to stream in the Packers game to it for one improvement, and you'll see some other changes too. So it will be a lot of fun. So please, when you see that come up this summer, please help us. I hope that that will become a yearly tradition that will grow and even become more profitable to the church as we share the news of God's love to our community through dance and through song and that. All of the bands who played last year had a wonderful time. All of them have spoken to Luke and want to come back, which I think really speaks to what we tried to do. And there were so many contributions and help from folks in different ways that if I started to name them, I'm afraid I'd leave somebody out, so I'd better not. But thank you to everybody who helped to make that a success in that. The second thing I'd like to mention is just kind of a few, not changes, but adjustments in terms of church staff and that. You met Cindy just a few moments ago. She is focusing upon the bookkeeping to try to relieve Joe of some of those duties within Joe's portfolio as being the business administrator. Cindy is a professional bookkeeper and does this for a living and is able to help Joe on a part-time basis. She comes in, I think it's about, 8 hours a week or so that we're looking at right now, and it may take more than 8 hours as we go through some of the busier times of the season and that, but that's one change that you might see as far as the staff. So please welcome Cindy. She has some expertise in working with finances within a church that may help to make the papers that we get a little bit more simple and easier to follow. So we appreciate Cindy, and we welcome you as part of our church family here. One of the things that's going to be happening this Thursday involves Amy Drura, and Amy and John and myself will be appearing before the Church and Ministry Committee of the Southeast Association. We have made an application for Amy to be what they call licensed. When someone is licensed, it does not mean that they are ordained, but allows them the privilege and the responsibility of officiating the rites and sacraments of the church for a period of 1 year right here at the church. This would mean, for instance, that if Amy takes the kids on a mission trip or retreat and wants to serve communion at the end of that retreat with the kids, she would officially be able to do that. If I were to be gone on the first Sunday of the month and we had communion as part of our worship service, and Amy were to speak, she could also officiate the sacraments for that. As some of the kids get older, I shouldn't say kids, but young adults, as they get older, and they've been with Amy in the youth fellowship, and now all of a sudden they're starting to have families of their own, or they wish to be married, this would allow Amy to participate in those sacraments and rite also. For instance, if they came and requested that she be a part of the wedding ceremony or to lead that. And so this will be a wonderful addition. It will expand the capabilities that Amy's able to offer to us. And I think will also allow her to continue to grow as a professional and as a member of our staff. And we're very grateful that she's willing to do this. And we thank you for that. One of the third changes or adjustments that we're trying to make in terms of staff is, and this one is still very flexible, I asked, it was my idea, so if it doesn't work, you can blame me or whatever. I asked Bill Johnson to serve as an assistant visitant for me. I'll say it right in a minute. Bill, as you know, is a person of very deep faith. He loves this church very, very much. He's one of the most friendly people that you meet when you walk into this church and that. One of the things that we are not doing as well as a church that I would like to see us do better at is when someone comes to visit, we need to follow up. We need to do that in a timely manner. When I get the visitation pads or sheets 6 weeks after someone's been here, it's a little awkward then to write them a letter and say, thank you for visiting with us. They need to be followed up with that day. Right after they've attended. They need to be spoken of. And part of the problem is, too, is that we don't get the information that we need to follow up, a phone number, an email address, an address, to be able to do that right away. And so Bill and I are working together on the best ways to do that. And our hope is that if Bill does this after the 8:30 service, we can train other people to do it after the 10 o'clock service or at other times, too, so that we can have more than just one person responsible for this area. And this way it will expand our welcoming ministry and really allow us to make the connections to help our church grow. We've already seen one family join because of the work that Bill has done. So I really think that this will be a great way to go in the future. Bill has worked in sales and insurance for I don't know how many years, but several, and I'm not going to say. And he's very good at it. And so this is a way that he's using his gifts then to try to help our church to grow and to improve in our ministry of welcoming in that. One of the things that I'll talk about the future for just a moment, we just completed our the 5 People That You Meet in Heaven series for Bible study, and we had a good turnout for that. The series I'd like to offer as we look at the early winter, late fall area would be a two-session study on the United Church of Christ. I find as I talk to folks that we really aren't sure about the United Church of Christ, how it started, what it stands for, what's it mean when the president of the United Church of Christ makes a statement. How does that affect our congregation here in Oconomowoc? You know, what's the difference between association and conference and who does what? And what's this thing called OCWM? So I'm going to ask Franz and to ask Jane Anderson, our Associate Conference Minister and our Conference Minister, to come and to talk with us on a couple evenings of that. Their schedules are very busy and full, so I don't know exactly when that's going to happen just yet. But maybe we gather around a potluck or we gather around a meal after church and we invite them to come in for 45 minutes and to share about the church and to teach us about the United Church of Christ so that we can have a better understanding of the church that we love and support and belong to. But that's going to be coming up this winter in that. I think I'll close just by saying, please keep the families in your prayers. We've had a lot of families that had suffered losses in the last couple, 3 months. And many people who have lost family members who are not even a part of our church. And there's a lot of grief yet still. So please remember those families in your prayers. Just because something happens doesn't mean you're fine tomorrow or the next day. It takes a long time to heal. So please remember that, and please uphold each other in your prayers if you do. I appreciate that. John, thank you.
Our next order of business on the agenda is a vote on several proposed changes to the church's constitution and bylaws. Please turn to the copy of those proposed changes. If you haven't received one of those, again, raise your hand and the tellers can come around and get you one. They look like this. They have red printing on them. Currently, members are elected for a 2-year term and are not able to be re-elected to our ministries. A number of ministry members have stated that they just seem to get started on the ministry and learn how it operates, and their term is then over. Other ministry members have expressed that they really enjoy working on their ministry and wish to continue when the members, if their term could be extended. Continuity of the work that ministries do has been difficult when the members are completely changed after only 2 years. The nominating committee has found that finding congregational members willing to serve on ministries is getting harder and harder, and it's hoped that this change will help that committee secure a full slate of candidates for election to the ministries of the church. The second portion of Vote 1 changes the number of terms that members of the nominating committee can serve, for the same reasons as stated for the ministry terms. I would ask that we wait until a motion is made and seconded for this vote before we open the floor for discussion. Article 12 of the Church Constitution states, the bylaws consisting of Articles 8 through 13 complementing church policy as set forth in this Constitution may be amended from time to time as required by a vote of a majority of members present at any congregational meeting called for the purpose of amending the bylaws, providing that a quorum is present. Any proposed amendment to bylaws to be considered must be presented in the same manner as proposed amendments to the Constitution. That includes a 10-day notice and things like that. Notice these proposed changes to the Constitution were first noticed and emailed to all church members on Wednesday, October 18th, 11 days before this meeting. I will now accept a motion to amend the Constitution of First Congregational United Church of Christ for Article 10, Part B, and Article 10, Part C, Number 1, as stated on the printout handout. And then this is just the front page. Would somebody like to make that motion? Mike? Mike Hoff? Is there a second? Christina Higbee? Okay. Now, is there any discussion on this? Any discussion? Okay. Then at this time, we will be voting on the proposed changes to the Constitution regarding the number of terms that ministry members and members of the nominating committee may serve. A yes vote means the wording in red is to be added to the Constitution of the First Congregational United Church of Christ of Oconomowoc Incorporated. A no vote means the Constitution wording stays as is currently written. If you are voting online, please email or text your vote to Amy Drew at this time. If your email vote is delayed until after the results of the vote are announced, the official vote count will be adjusted in the record of the proceedings kept by the clerk, Rochelle Bailing. And it's my understanding we do have at least one person currently watching online. So all in favor of the motion say yes. Yes. All opposed to the motion say no. The motion carries. Vote 2 is a proposed change in Article 9, Part D, regarding the number of years that our church treasurer or co-treasurers may serve. The position of church treasurer or co-treasurer is voted on each year. Currently, the treasurer or co-treasurers are limited to a maximum of 6 consecutive years of service. We have 2 very dedicated men currently filling these positions, Jim Nadlezio and Bill Palm. But their 6-year term, as currently allowed by the Constitution, expires in January. We are having difficulty finding an individual or individuals to fill this position starting in 2018. Both Jim and Bill have expressed a willingness to continue in this position. A change in the Constitution would allow them to continue with the same need to renominate and re-elect them each year. The leadership team has mixed feelings about this proposed change, but feels it needs to be brought before the congregation for discussion and a vote. Again, I would ask that we wait until a motion is made and seconded for this vote before we open the floor for discussion. I will now accept a motion to amend the Constitution of First Congregation United Church of Christ Incorporated for Article 9, Part D, as stated on the printout handout. And again, that's on the second page. Is there somebody who would like to make that motion? George Moeller, second. Trudy Muris. Is there any discussion on this motion? Okay, again, we could use the microphones. Again, please state your name and...
John Danny Wall. The question that I don't have an issue with the proposed change to the Constitution, but I do have a question in regards to the audit being completed prior to the annual meeting each year that was not completed this last year. And if we're going to have treasurers in place and we tighten up some of the financial controls, can the congregation agree that the audit will be completed before the annual meeting?
The audit, or it is now called the review, was completed and reported on at our spring congregational meeting. Paul Geraldson and who was the other one? Katie Stevens were the two people that did do that. Again, now called a review and did report that at the spring meeting.
But what I'm suggesting is that that's done before the annual meeting, because at the annual meeting, that's when we're going to vote on the treasurers for the upcoming year.
Okay, the issue we've had last year, and the reason why it was delayed until the spring, was that the books don't close until January 31st, and we had difficulty getting all of the paperwork done and to the auditors or to the review committee in time to get that done for the annual meeting. We can try to do that. Again, with Cindy's help this year, it may be more possible, but again, it may depend on a timing issue more than anything else. But I understand your question. Does that help, Dan? I know you don't like the answer, but...
It answers it, but it doesn't answer it.
Okay.
John, could you please share with us what the administrative ministry's concerns are about the proposed change?
I think the main concern that was expressed at our leadership meeting was the potential for having somebody be the church treasurer for too long a period of time. Pastor Schneff relayed an occurrence in a former church that he worked at where a treasurer was the treasurer forever. And well, why don't you talk? Maybe that'd be better if you just explain that.
There were two concerns. I don't know if they were really concerns, but there were two comments made about the amendment at our leadership meeting, Lynn, to answer you. One is your moderator and clerk also have 6-year term limits for their office. And so your treasurer then is in that same line right now of keeping it at 6 years.
Moderator's only 3.
Okay, well, we're going to talk about that. No, okay, I stand corrected. The other concern is and this has nothing to do with Jim or Bill, so let me be specific at that. At a church that I worked with in Louisville, they had this phrase, no limit to the number of consecutive terms in the office. And Ken Schraber, was the treasurer of the Memorial and Endowment Committee. And the church depended upon the income from the Memorial and Endowment Committee. Well, if he didn't agree with what the church was doing, the church didn't receive a check from the Memorial Endowment Committee to fund it. And there was no way to vote him out of office because there was no term limit on it. So you have to think not just right now of the trouble of getting someone to fulfill that office, but of the potential situations that you're creating by the changes that you're doing.
Has that not been addressed by an annual election of those people?
It could be, yes. But those were the concerns that were raised.
That's the hope, is that because they still have to be voted in each year, if there is a concern with this kind of an issue, again, their name could go before, it has to go before the nominating committee to be put on the slate. The nominating committee works directly and reports directly to leadership, and Pastor Schneff has been working with the nominating committee, so if there are concerns that about an individual, whether it be the treasurer, whether it be the ministry members we just got voted in, with any of those, their names could be eliminated from the possible slate, and therefore, or they could be voted down at an annual meeting. And again, something that usually doesn't happen, but if there are issues, we feel there are safeguards put in for that. Yes?
Hi, this is Bob. Sorry, this is Bob Johnson. A couple of comments on this. I think Dan's concern is a good one, and I don't know if this would be a constitutional change or not, but I'm part of the leadership group right now, and I'm intimately involved in the review process. I was the one who worked with Winter Coleman to get that formalized, and there's an actual formal procedure now that's in place, so it's vastly better than it was. But part of that is one of the things that's causing it to not be ready for the annual meeting. So I guess what I would want us to consider to take care of both things is, could we not have the treasurer voted in at the second meeting? Or maybe that would be a constitutional issue too, I don't know. But that would allow the review process to be done, presented, and then we could vote on the treasurer. That would solve both, solve both things. And then my second comment is on the concern about that situation in Louisville. We would not have that problem because we annually vote for the treasurer each year. It's not a perpetual position, it's an annual position that can be perpetual if we want it to be. So we would not have that situation. So those are my comments.
Again, with regard to voting the treasurer in at the spring congregational meeting, I think it's a possibility, but again, currently, I have to look at the wording in the Constitution, but I believe it states that all of the voting for those officers takes place at the annual meeting. And so that probably would involve a constitutional change. I'm not sure if that's something we want to do, or if that, I'm not sure. Again, we'll take it back to leadership and look at it. One of the things that we could possibly do, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, at the annual meeting is when we go to vote on the slate that the nominating committee presents, we could take a vote as a congregation to hold off on electing our treasurers until the spring meeting and just do it as a one-time vote. Again, that would give us some time to look at whether we need to make the change in the Constitution or not. So I don't know if that would work or not. Okay, Sue?
Okay, I have the microphone. So, Susan Pershawn, my question is, can we change the date of the annual meeting so that that review would be complete prior to the meeting? And I don't know if that would eliminate the need to change this additional wording regarding in the Constitution or regarding when the annual corporate meeting is.
Again, that's a possibility. One of the things is we work on the fiscal year kind of basis, so that January right now works well as far as that. Let's see. The other thing I just wanted to mention is that part of our issue, I believe, has been that the people that have been on the review committee very often are working as in the tax preparation business, and that January to April time is probably one of their busiest times of the year, if not the busiest time. And that's, again, part of the issue of just finding people that are competent to do the review and yet are available at that time. So, again, that was the reason why we postponed it until the spring this last year. Joe? Oh, sorry.
Hello. Hi. Listen, I think there's obviously something that's come up as far as we need to look at our timetables with the review, and that's something that can be addressed. From a procedural standpoint, just so everybody's clear, it doesn't mean, if this would pass, it does not mean that they automatically get to stay on as treasurer. They have to be nominated by the nominating committee, and that has to come before the leadership committee. So there's 2 hurdles right there, okay? That's obviously different than some other situations. So trying to refocus everybody on what's on the board, because if we go down the path of trying to amend this, that's a whole nother, that's something else, okay? So just so everybody's clear on that, are we clear? Thank you.
Joe?
Hi, this is Joe Zamborski. I agree with you, Dan. I think that the review should have been done before the annual meeting. However, it was already brought up regarding the people we chose to do the review are people that are knowledgeable on doing the review. And their time frame was tax time, and it was difficult to get it done by the annual meeting time. And I think you'd have the same problem up through April 15th if we have that. So I hear you. I understand what you're trying to say. It could be a special meeting just for the review of the books, and let it go at that. But I don't know what else to do with that.
And maybe, I'm just going to think off the top of my head, maybe we could do a preliminary review before the annual meeting with the books that we do have that could be presented, that say the books look okay, but the final review and report would come at the spring meeting. You know, maybe something like that would help. Dan?
John, Danny, well, that's exactly what I was going to suggest. Other organizations that I've been involved with, they engage the services of these people to do the review/audit in advance and then work with the exceptions. And that way they can get the audit/review done on a very timely basis after the first of the year.
Okay. Any other discussion on this amendment? Again, I just want to let you know that leadership, again, had mixed feelings about this. We felt that we wanted to put it before the congregation for discussion and a vote. I think leadership would be okay if the vote is passed. I think leadership would also be okay at this time with the vote if it's voted down. So again, we need to have you as a congregation make this decision. But again, is there any further discussion before we take a vote? Any further discussion? Okay, at this time we'll be voting on the proposed changes to the Constitution regarding the number of years that the church treasurer or co-treasurers may serve. A yes vote means the wording in black with a strike-through indication is to be removed. Again, you can see it on the screen. And the wording in red is to be added to the Constitution of the First Congregation United Church of Christ of Oconomowoc Incorporated. A no vote means the constitutional wording stays as it is currently written. That would mean no red and with the strike-through wording still staying in the Constitution. If you're voting online, please email your text or text your vote to Amy Drew at this time. If your email vote is delayed until after the results of the vote are announced, the official vote count will be adjusted in the record of the proceedings kept by Clerk Rochelle Bailey. So, at this time, all in favor of the motion say yes. Yes. All opposed say no. Okay, I guess hearing no negative votes, and then the vote is passed. I didn't feel like that. I guess I'd like to take a hand count just to. I just didn't feel real comfortable with that. So all in favor of voting yes, please raise your hand, just so we can get a, okay. Now I feel better. All opposed, raise your hand. All opposed and voting no, raise your hand. Okay, so the vote does pass. The motion carries. Okay, thank you. We now move into the portion of the meeting where each ministry, committee, or project group will have a brief opportunity, again, I stress brief, opportunity to report to the congregation. The leadership team has asked each ministry to come up with goals for 2017. It is our hope that every congregational member is working to support and complete these goals along with the ministries that created them. For the agenda for this meeting, we have listed each ministry with subheadings for any committee or project group under the umbrella of each ministry. We do this to better help our congregational members understand the organization of our church as directed by our Constitution and bylaws. We would hope that each ministry representative give us an update on meeting their goals along with an update of recent future events or activities. And we have the ministry goals for all but one of our ministries, I think we'll put up on the screen as they're giving the report. The leadership goal for 2017, as presented and voted on at the annual meeting in January, is to continue to support and hold accountable each ministry in the goals they set as First Congregation of UCC of Oconomowoc moves forward to nurture healthy growth and increase participation in the life of the congregation. During 2017, the plan is to support the efforts and recommendations of the Church Safety and Security Project Group, appoint a task force or project group to develop policies and methods in support of increasing the effectiveness of our fundraising efforts, to support the effort to strengthen the adult education ministry, to lend support to the development of a youth soccer league for youth with disabilities, and to support the development of a family teen addiction center. As related to our goals, the Church Safety and Security Project Group has made extensive progress on our church being proactive to ensure the safety and security of our members. While many of these measures are being done behind the scenes, the leadership team is pleased with many of the changes that are being implemented. Our project group being established to develop policies and methods in support of increasing the effectiveness of our fundraising efforts had its first meeting September 26th. We anticipate this project group potentially having an initial report for the congregation in January. And Rochelle Bailing has agreed to be the chair of that particular group. So we'll hear more from them later. I don't think you have anything today, do you, later? Okay. The church's efforts to strengthen the adult Christian education ministry of the church has included a number of new initiatives, including Pastor Dave's study, The Five People Meet in Heaven, and a women's book study on Sunday mornings. In addition, a study of what it means to be a UCC church is being planned for later in the year, as you heard from Pastor Dave. Didn't mention it, but the development of a youth soccer league for youth with disabilities has been postponed to next spring due to lack of interest. But the hope is still there to make this dream a reality for our community. Several of our members of our congregation have been instrumental in trying to get this league underway, and we just currently don't have the support from the participants to do that, but we're still hoping that we can do that in the spring.
John, may I comment on that?
Yes. Dan Maloney?
Yes, thank you. Dan Maloney. The YMCA gave us support. They're interested in the program. They feel it's an opportunity to provide yet another athletic opportunity for children. I was late to get the information out. We put the information out in the third week of May, at the end of the school year, in competition with all of those things that go on in families with school children. The same thing happened at the Y. They disseminated the information. There is support. It's a great idea. We just did not give ourselves the best chance to be successful. So we think that we are going to prime the pump, so to speak, in February and March, hoping to get something going in May, and we're going to give it a better organized try in spring.
Thank you. Over 70 church members voted at the annual meeting in January in favor of the proposal to support the development of a family teen addiction center. Leadership has been disappointed with the congregational support this initiative has received, so currently this initiative is on hold. Again, it's an important issue, but one that we need to look at again, I think, and revisit and make some decisions as far as what we're going to do in the future. Other items the leadership team has been working on. Again, Pastor Dave mentioned several of these, so I won't go on too long with those, but again, working with the groups to develop or get Cindy Wellman as our bookkeeper, adding Bill Johnson as our outreach assistant to the pastor, and working with Amy Drew on her licensure. Leadership also sponsored the ministry fair in September with the hope that congregational members were better able to learn what each ministry of our church does maybe more willing to serve on those ministries. Under the umbrella of the leadership team is the nominating committee. The nominating committee is working during the year to fill positions on ministry or standing committees as they are needed, and they're beginning their work on filling the slates for our annual meeting. Under the umbrella of the leadership team are the Pastoral Relations and Staff Support Committee, the Personnel Committee, and the Long Range Planning Committee. Leadership is currently seeking one church member to join Amy Hayes, Linda Howland, and Dick Protzman to fill the Personnel Committee. If this is a position that interests you or please contact myself or any member of the leadership team. Does anybody from any of those groups wish to report nominating or any of those at this time? Personnel or, okay. Again, the next agenda item is that of the administrative ministry. Again, Joe Linen was planning on reporting for that, but as I said, was called away very suddenly with a serious car accident for his mother and father-in-law. So I'll be reporting for him. The Winter Cloman report is complete from the administrative standpoint. They've completed office upgrades to the printer and computers, although just the other day we were informed that Amy's having some problem with her laptop, which we still have to look into. For a security update, most of the updates recommended by the Conemaugh Police Department have been implemented. Again, they were working with the church security and safety group. The door in the lower level was planned to be installed later this winter by church members. This is a door that's found, if you go out the hallway here, there's a staircase that goes downstairs that leads right into the lower level. And we're going to be putting a doorway there that can be locked, basically to lock the access, prevent access to the lower level where the children are during Sunday school. So we have to install a frame and a doorway, and several of our church members have agreed to be able to do that. Let's see. A fundraiser update. Again, Craft Fest, Golf Outing, Rummage Sale were all great successes. Thank you to all whom helped. Next week, we're having a budget committee meeting to discuss the budget and long-range budget concerns. Current budget is calling for a 5 to 7% increase in pledges. This does not include some of the long-range budget concerns, such as paving our parking lot, new HVAC units for the church, elevator upgrades, and siding and painting. The building maintenance program is looking at to be completed by year ends. Again, so they're developing a list of different activities that need to be done. Are there any questions about the administrative report? Again, I can try to answer, or maybe Bob Johnson might be able to answer. Anybody? Okay. Dan.
John, Danny, well, I'm glad to hear that the process is beginning on the budgeting for this upcoming year. When you're saying 5 to 7%, is that in addition to the capital improvements that you mentioned?
I haven't been sitting in on the budget committee, so I'm not real sure. My guess is that 5% is in the general budget, does not include those items. I know there has been very, very, very preliminary, talk about, possibly looking at a capital campaign for some of these major items. I know with the parking lot, they're talking, I think they were saying $150,000 to repave the parking lot. Again, whether it be done over time, higher than that, Bob. So, and some of these other things are major expenses that we have some money in the budget to cover some of those things, but they're more of emergency type nature right now. But I'm assuming that 5 to 7% is just the basic budget.
I think all of us would agree that the maintenance budget that the church has had has always been very lean.
As it is with all of us.
Right. And one thing, and I think this ties in with stewardship as well too, is if you can identify between leadership and the administrative team and also working together with stewardship, if you can identify specifically what those capital projects are around the church, some of them are just things that are catching up with us. There might not be a bad idea, you know, to identify what those are with some estimated costs. And considering the fact that the economy has been very good, the stock market has performed extremely well here over the last couple of years, it might provide an opportunity for some special gifts by the end of the year to fund some of those projects rather than them being included within the budget. We've seen that even this last year with the great sound system and the audiovisual work that has been done here. And but if it's vague and there isn't specific projects that people can understand and visualize, it's tougher, you know, to say, geez, I'd like to give to that. I reflect back on our building project here. One of those items that worked out very well that way, there was an extra, were the stained glass windows. And many members then bought into those and then donated the appropriate funds to pay for those. So I offer that as a suggestion to administrative, working together with stewardship as that project moves forward. The other concern that I'd like to just ask, Rochelle, when you mentioned whether we had a quorum or not, was the number of members 427?
That is correct.
So
there was a lot of members that we removed from our membership who were not participating prior to Pastor Dave joining. So there was a good chunk of members that have.
So from the January meeting, we're down 45 members. There too, I think we really need to be honest and objective with ourselves on the number of giving units that we have within the church as the stewardship campaign progresses. Because the membership has actually been weaned out, cleaned up, whatever the case might be.
And Dan, it's my understanding that those 45 members were not giving members. Is that a correct statement, Joe?
Okay. Thank you, John.
Thank you. I just want to maybe mention that the number that I originally announced for the quorum purposes was the number we reported at the spring congregational meeting. We added 12 for our 12 new members, and we deducted 3 for our 3 recent deaths. So that's how I got that number. And again, that was not reflecting the numbers that had been taken out of the roll. So that's where the discrepancy was there. The other thing, Dan, I just wanted to mention is that one of the hopes and one of the things that this church financial group, or church finances and, what do we call that group? Anyway, the group that's just starting to meet is hopefully looking at our, we have 3 major fundraisers with our Craft Fest, vendor fair, golf outing, and our rummage sale. Currently, all 3 of those, go directly into the church budget to help balance our budget. It is our sincere hope that we can work, and one of the things that we want that group to look at are ways that we can reduce the amount of those amounts that go into the church budget and possibly allow those groups then to designate what other special projects those might be for. Again, whether financially we're able to do that or not will depend on the giving that the church members make up that. But we put those amounts into our budget a number of years ago just to balance the budget. And again, it really is our sincere hope that we can return those back to being more designated funds for things like our special projects. So, anybody else? Questions about the administrative ministry? Okay. Again, our next, under the umbrella of the administrative ministry is the budget committee, the landscape committee, the various fundraising projects, groups such as vendor fair, craft fest, the rummage sale, and the golf outing. Do any of these groups wish to report at this time? Do you want to report on craft fest now?
Can I just do all the other?
Yeah, and then Amy is also going to be reporting on education ministry. Again, Randy Dempsey is not able to be here today.
So I'll be first reporting on education, and then I'll go into mission ministry and then give the report on Craft Fest. Education ministry is responsible for creating and supporting Christian educational programming and opportunities for the youth and adults at First Congregational UCC. We aim to reach and educate members of the congregation and community with the messages of in Christ's love. Our Sunday school programming this year is fully staffed by wonderful volunteers and teachers, and it is going extremely well. Our junior and middle school youth groups are meeting every month, as well as our high school youth groups. And our high school youth are having a soccer team again this year, so please watch for the schedule and come support them and root them on as they go through the season. The confirmation class is going well. We have 11 youth that are attending the program with us, and we're having a great time diving deeper into their faith. The young adult care packages will be assembled by the high school youth on November 12th and will be mailed out November 13th. If you or someone you know that's 5 years out of high school, please let the church office know if their address needs to be updated so we can make sure that those packages are delivered to them, and we don't want to have any returned this year. Also, if you would like to make a donation, please see Darla Corby. Are you still taking donations, Darla? Sure. Yep. So please see Darla Corby. To sponsor a box is $15. We have 27 individuals who will be receiving them this year, so please, it's a wonderful ministry, and the kids really look forward to receiving these blessings in a box from their congregation, so it's very cool. We would also like to invite the entire congregation to a private showing of The Star. If you have not seen the preview for this, it's a super cute movie with some adult humor and kids. It's the story of the birth of Jesus through the eyes of the animals. So please join us. I have rented a whole theater at Hillside November 21st at 6 o'clock. Please bring your family, your friends, your neighbors, whoever you want to bring, please bring them. Please let me know, though, by, I can't remember the week before, how many you're bringing, so then I can figure out how big of a theater we need. Right now we have a theater that will seat 96 people, but if we need to get a bigger one, we can. It will be $4.76 per person. That payment can be made to the church, please. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Education will also be sponsoring an Advent tea on Saturday, December 2nd, so please look for more of that information in branches that will be emailed out to all of you on Monday. We are also gearing up for the Christmas pageant again, so we'll need many volunteers to help with that, and I see that. Some youth that will be participating this year. We're super excited. It's always a great success. And then our women's book study that's been going on, Unglued, has been going very well. We have around 20 participants, and that's still going well. And if you have any questions, please see myself, Rania Dempsey, or any of the education ministry members. So, do you want me to go right into mission? All right. So, now we'll change hats here. Mission Ministries report. The 2018 summer mission trip to Houston is filling up quickly. We have 24 youth and 2 adults who are already registered. So if you're interested in attending, please get your registration form filled out and turn it to me. I've also been approached by a young adult who is wanting a young adult mission trip. And I had presented it to Mission Ministry on Thursday night. They gave me the green light, and with Pastor Dave's help, and we'll be working with Paige Riemann to offer this mission trip for the young adults January 8th through the 13th. So if you, as a chaperone, I mean, they don't really need chaperones, but if you as an adult want to come, please let me know. And that information will be sent out to them as soon as we get all the information put together. To help make these mission trips possible, we have to do fundraising, obviously. Right now, we've got a few fundraisers going on. We have the greeting cards and the candy bars that are being sold and taking orders for out in Fellowship Hall after every service. And today is your last day to place your braided strudel order, so please hand that in to me as well. And then we had the Craft Fest and Vendor Fair. That was a very good, successful year. For the revamping that we did, it was great. Everything worked out. We heard a lot of positive feedback, which we were very, very happy with. The total was $8,200 profit, and from that $8,200, $1,500 of it will go to the youth mission team. It was voted by leadership and mission ministry that because Craft Fest was going to die, and if I didn't take it on, Craft Fest would have let go. Well, I couldn't do Craft Fest and the vendor fair I couldn't see Craft Fest go, so I had the great idea of combining the both. And with the approval from the committees, they said, yep, go ahead, do it. We did it, and again, it was a great success. But then with that, I said, we need, since we're not offering the vendor fair, we need some help with that. So that's how the food booth was able to go to the mission ministry. I hope that makes sense to everybody. So they're super excited about that. Mark Beal, Mike Stevens will be doing a wonderful presentation of reintroducing and letting you guys all know what's happening on with our missionary, Mark Beal, on November 19th. So please join us for that great piece. Now I'd like to invite Deb Berzinger up to give a report on Family Promise.
Good morning. As you know, I'm Deb Berzinger, I think most of you know, and I have been co-coordinating our Family Promise outreach here at the church with Cindy Meckel. Just a very brief update on what's happening with Family Promise. It's been operational for 3 years now. Just last year, statistics for you, 76 individuals, homeless individuals, were served through Family Promise. 63 of those were children. So we served here quite a number of homeless children, and some of the success stories, sometimes I think people would like to know what happens to these families after they leave the program. 2 of them in the last year have had great success. Melissa came into the program with 3 kids, and she was pregnant, and she was hosted here at our church. She's now been in an apartment for many months. She is very active as a Family Promise alumni, so she comes back and helps with the program and helps people who were in her position. And she's going to school at WCTC. So she is being very successful right now, and that's because of Family Promise and the help that this church and other churches provided. And another great success story, Anne was one of our guests, not this last week when we hosted, but the time before. She has 2 children. She's just been accepted into a college program at Marian University. And so she and her children will be moving to the Appleton area, and she'll be attending college. So we're really happy for those success stories. Just so you know, also, there are 28 churches that are participating in the Waukesha County area. It's mostly western Waukesha County. And not one of those churches has dropped out of the program since we started. So they've all maintained contact. There are over 1,000 volunteers in those 28 churches. So, and of course, this is just the local affiliate. This is a national program with thousands and thousands of volunteers. But it does help our local community, people in our neighborhood, our neighbors, and our children. So it's an important outreach program for this church. We have seen a little bit of declining participation in the last couple of hosting periods, and so we're hoping to re-energize a little bit. We'd like to do a thank you to our volunteers soon. Also, we've had some turnover going on with the Family Promise leadership in the board and with the executive director. Many of you might remember David Tenick. He was the executive director, then he resigned for family reasons. He's actually returning. He just started last week. So we have an experienced executive director coming back in. And so we're looking forward to him working with the program again. And if you can't volunteer here at the church, there are lots of other opportunities. You can volunteer at the day center where the families spend time looking for jobs and really trying to get their feet back on the ground during the day. And then also, they're always looking for board and committee members if you have some expertise in marketing or business connections in the community. There are lots of ways you can help other than volunteering here at church. For those who want to get involved here at church, Cindy tries to do a couple of training sessions every year. And you only have to be trained if you want to do the dinner hosting, evening hosting, or overnight hosting. If you just want to donate food, you don't need to be trained. But it's very interesting training. It teaches about homelessness here in our community and the root causes of it. So anybody have any questions, please feel free to see Cindy or I, and we hope that you will step up and join us if you haven't before. I think you'll find it very satisfying, and it's always fun to meet the guests. So thank you.
Thank you, Deb. And also under Mission Ministry is the prayer shawls. And as a report from Ann Stoltz, she is looking for individuals who will be able to help set it up after worship each Sunday and also help distribute the prayer shawls. If you're interested, please let her know. And finally, Mission Ministry will also be putting up the Christmas tree for donations. Their hope is to have it up by November 19th. This year, they will be working with the Christmas Clearing Council, Shore Haven, and Interfaith. So please watch for more details as they become available within the next few weeks.
Thank you. We'll now call upon Tim Schuyler to come up and report for Spirituality Ministry.
Hello everyone, I'm Tim Schuyler. I'm the chair for the Spirituality Ministry. A few things that have happened over the past year that you may or may not have noticed. Obviously, we've had the addition of the new audiovisual equipment to help enhance the service. There was a very gracious donation that was made to put that equipment in. But there's been a lot of time that has gone in for those that have had to learn to use the equipment. And so we want to thank them for their efforts because it is, again, helping to enhance our services. Part of our role with the Spirituality Ministry is to help with pastoral coverage. And many of you might have seen a new face that has been added to help us with our worship. That was Reverend Don Ellerman, who came in a couple times for us this past year. And we're very thankful for him to step in and allow Pastor Dave to have his vacation time off, which was well deserved. Communion. We made additions, or changes rather, to the communion service. With the addition of the gluten-free bread. Again, the goal of the Spirituality Ministry with Pastor Dave is to make sure that all are able to equally partake in the service and worship. And so that was done so that those that had allergies could participate in communion with us. There was some adjustments that were made to the ushers' duties. We tried to find commonality between the services. So if people were ushering between either first or second service, that the roles that the ushers had to have were happening around a similar timeline, and so that if someone was ushering one versus the other, it wasn't a big difference between the two. I would like to add, this time with the time and talent sheets, if those are of you that are interested in helping, volunteerism is a big thing. More is needed within the church. Taking time to help with communion, to help with ushering. The more people that volunteer to help with those initiatives, again, is the fewer times over the course of the year that you would have to participate. You're going to be at church every Sunday, right? And so why not take a few Sundays out of the year to help with the service and participate as part of it? One other thing I just wanted to bring up is note happening this year, and Pastor Dave, correct me if I get it wrong, we will be decorating the church for Christmas a Saturday later. It's going to be December 2nd. The reason for that, there's 5 Sundays between Thanksgiving and Christmas this year, and so we will where we traditionally decorate the Saturday right after Thanksgiving is going to be the Saturday after December 2nd. So watch for more communication about that, but that's because there's the additional Sunday between Thanksgiving and Christmas this year. Again, the Spirituality Ministry is here to help enhance the service. If there's anything that you think we can improve upon or things that need to be changed to help accommodate those so that they can fully participate, please let us know. Any questions? Yes?
How many requests did you get for the gluten-free bread? It is absolutely, my opinion, and talking to other people, terrible.
So the question was, how many requests did we get for gluten-free bread? And to be perfectly honest, I don't think it's really the number of requests that we got. It's really to make sure that those that want to be able to participate can. And if you have an allergy, that would prevent you from participating in communion, we wanted to make sure we address that. And so
people eat gluten-free bread because they have what they call celiac disease. and it's a condition in your colon and intestine that's very painful if you eat anything that has yeast pores in it. I'm not going to name names as who has made the request, but if you take a percentage of the population of about 5% of the people that have celiac disease, and you multiply that times our membership, you're talking about a number of folks, probably 30 folks that it affects within our congregation and that. And it is extremely painful if you have that. Lynn, I'm sorry.
Could we do one station that's gluten-free?
We can work on that with spirituality. The thing is that the one bread cannot touch the other, or else it contaminates the gluten-free bread.
Right, that's why
So that's why they cannot be together, so that people understand that. You know, we can't have one of the 4 stations be gluten-free or something like that, perhaps.
The other issue we talked about is just not wanting to embarrass people by identifying them as having to take one or the other, and so that was another issue that was been talked about.
Second that comment from Lynn. It would be wonderful, and I don't think that people would really feel uncomfortable going to a place where they, I mean, Linda has exchange students have so many allergies and different things, and it's a fact of life, nothing to be ashamed of about. And I second that. The gluten-free bread is terrible.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else for spirituality? All right, thank you very much.
I'd like to call upon Fred Steinke to report for the Stewardship Committee, or Ministry.
Fred Steinke, I'm chairing stewardship this year. Just briefly, we're right in the midst of the stewardship season. This week there will be mailings going out to, all members, and in there will be the time and talents and the financial promise or pledge forms. We've greatly expanded the time and talent sheet. So when you get it, there's a 2-side on it, so make sure you flip it over. We do say over, I think, on it. But what we've added is all the ministries, because that is one of the struggles the nominating committee gets to every year. We all have talents. Every one of us is good at something. And it helps a great church greatly if everybody would just pick out something that you'd like to do and just say, yep, that's me, send it in, and everybody will be happy and congenial. And the financial side of it, you're also going to see the pledge form in there. November 12th is the day that we ask you to come to church. Bring the, there'll be an opportunity to walk up to the front of the church. I think Pastor Dave will have us come up in groups. You know, I don't know how he does it, by pews or something. And we are blessed to be able to do that. So I would ask you to give generously of both your time, your talents, and your finances. Gordon mentioned that November 5th, we're going to have a planned giving, 2 planned giving sessions, so that's next Sunday, one after the first service, one after the second service. It's a half an hour or so. Bob Johnson took off. Bob Johnson will be here to answer any additional questions. A lot of it is, it's planned giving, but it's smart giving. How can we maybe not even totally to church, but other charitable things as well that we might want to consider of giving of our financial capabilities and how to maximize that. Also under the Stewardship Committee is the Endowment Fund, and there's been some talk here about capital campaigns. We do have an endowment fund at the church now. It spins off, I don't remember exactly, $20,000, $25,000 a year that helps balance the budgets and keeps us. So one of the things we're going to be getting into after we get through the stewardship is putting that endowment fund and encouraging people to think about that for the benefit of the church going forward. I think that's what I had to say. Anybody got any questions? Okay, thank you, and remember the 12th and bring your pledges forward. Thank you.
Under the umbrella of the Stewardship Ministry is the Memorial Fund Committee and the Planned Giving Committee. Do any of these groups wish to report at this time? One of the things you do?
No, I think Fred covered it.
Okay. One of the things we are potentially looking at is there's been a request to possibly combine the Memorial Fund Committee and the Planned Giving Committee into one joint committee. That's something that leadership will be looking at, possibly bringing to the congregation at the January meeting for, again, another constitutional change, but again, that's very early in the discussions at this point. Okay, call upon Jeff Van Dam or Mick Van Every to report for the Welcoming Ministry.
I'm Jeff, and I'm not tall enough to be Mick, so. It's Sunday. It's church. We need to be brief because we got to get home because Aaron Rodgers is playing today. All right, he's not. I'll still be brief. What do we do? How we impact the church includes some of the activities we have done and are going to be doing in the future. The outdoor worship was a great success. We had a lot of fun with a fun potluck. Lots of sloppy joes left. We also help out with rummage sale, with welcoming at the doors. We're going to try and implement that for Craft Fest next year as well. We did do a new member brunch. We're going to have another new member brunch, I suspect, before long to incorporate some new people. One of our church members on our committee went to the convention, the Wisconsin conference in spring, summer, and she's going to enlighten us all with some really wonderful, new and exciting, welcoming ideas that we're going to try and implement here at the church. Working on that. Decorating the church, 12/2 at noon, preceded by Advent study group. That'll be going, I think, 10 to noon. So they'll scoot out, we'll scoot in. I made a note that I have to go to Hillside to see the star at 6 o'clock, so I'm going to turn the page. We also, I think we're going to vote on Tuesday at our meeting to make sure that we have at the fellowship, an all-gluten assortment of things to eat. We'll bring that back for a vote, perhaps. I'm done. Any questions? And we'll have Barb come up to talk about the Caring Connection, correct? Yes, sure. She's awesome. Any other questions? Thank you.
Again, under the umbrella of the Welcoming Ministry is the Caring Connection, so Barb?
I'm Barb Moeller. I also chair with Pam Van Every and Trudy Muris. Just a couple things. We have about 8 different groups, but I just wanted to highlight a couple of them. But I also wanted to remind you there is a huge bulletin board in the kitchen hall area that I worked up that tells about Caring Connection and what we do, and also all the people, volunteers that are involved in each group. I also wanted to highlight 2 groups. One is the funeral, and I wanted to mention Marty Wiley and all the volunteers that helped her this past few months and made it a very warm welcome for family and friends after the services. I also wanted to mention that we have a November meeting coming up, and at this particular time, we talk about those in our church that are in need of a little extra help at this season, at that season in December, those especially that aren't able to come to the church. And so forth, and we send cards to them as well as to our staff, And also flowers are sent to them too. And anybody can volunteer to take flowers to somebody if you would like to do that. And it's really kind of rewarding once you've done it before. So thank you.
Under our Constitution bylaws, 2 auxiliary organizations have been established. They are the Hearts and Hands Preschool and the Memorial Gardens Association. Cindy Meckel was not able to be here, but sent me just a short report to read for the Christian Preschool. She says we're off to a great start. We are serving 24 families with 26 kids in our regular classes and another 5 families in our Friday Fun class. We have our fall fundraisers going on, and orders can be placed online at our website. Like us on our Facebook and Instagram pages. So that's the Hearts and Hands. Does anybody from Memorial Gardens wish to report? George? I can't believe George would pass up a chance to talk. So. Get back. Come on. Come on.
All's good.
Good. All's good, he says. So. Are there any other groups that wish to present reports to the congregation at this time? Thank you to everyone serving on ministries, committees, and projects groups who are serving our church in other capacity. Again, as you've kind of heard throughout this meeting, the nominating committee is looking for people to add to their slate for January. If you're interested in working on a committee, please indicate that in your time and talent sheet, or contact the church office or any member of the nominating committee, and we'll pass your name along. Again, we'd love to have a full slate when we come in January. We now move into a time where we have the opportunity to hear congregational feedback, insights, or concerns. One of the goals that the leadership team has discussed is an attempt to increase appropriate communication with all church members. Please remember to always state your name when you speak so we can have an accurate record, and use the microphone so that our webcast proceeding can record these proceedings. Anybody have any questions, comments, general concerns? Darla.
I'm just sitting here listening and thinking of an idea that I thought I would bring up, and I don't know what the back page of this time and talent sheet is going to look like. Maybe it's a summary of what every committee does, but I think part of the hesitation sometimes of people when the nominating committee calls upon you, it's like, oh, how much time is this going to take for me? And how many meetings are there going to be? And can I really do it all? Without really understanding. And I'm just having a great time with the ladies on the education committee right now. And I just thought, you know, what if we throw in the emails that come out on a weekly basis, or in branches, a testimonial. So there's testimonials of why you should give financially to your church, but why not call upon a committee member of the various committees, and they give a testimonial, maybe a paragraph, and we put it at the bottom of an email that our congregation is reading. And it just is listening to people like, oh, you know, that's what they're doing. Or, oh gosh, if they're doing it, I know they work full time, and if they're doing that, maybe I can do this too. I think people don't really understand sometimes what is involved, and if we just kind of throw some little things in there that they're not suspecting, you know, it may be helpful. Just an idea.
And again, one of the reasons why we had our all ministry fair back in September was to try and get some of those same things out. I know we've talked about possibly putting those boards out again in Fellowship Hall, just so people can look at them if they're interested in learning more about ministries. Another thing that we've talked about leadership was having a Ministry of the Month type of presentation. Is even part of our worship service, where somebody from each ministry who gets up and just explains what they've done, and maybe, you know, give this testimonial type thing. But again, if you're asked to be on one of these ministries or committees by the nominating, please consider very prayerfully their request, and it is very rewarding. And I think again, the more people get involved, the better our church will be. Any other concerns? Yes. Again, use the microphone.
I just wanted to say, I agree
agree with the gluten-free bread that we had for communion was horrible, but I know that there's some gluten-free bread that's excellent. I get some at Pick and Save that's by a brand called Udi's in the freezer section. You can't tell it from regular bread. It's wonderful. So maybe we just need to look into a different brand of gluten-free.
Again, Tim, you can kind of take that back to spirituality or talk to Tim and give him some ideas. Anybody else have any questions, comments about anything at all? This is your chance to bring it before the congregation. Okay, unless there's anybody has any additional items to discuss, I'll now entertain a motion and a second to adjourn. Mike Hoff is making the motion. Is there a second? Susan Pershon. All in favor say yes. Yes. All opposed say no. Thank you. And thank you all for coming today. Appreciate your attendance. Thank you. It seemed like she was off by 1 slide. Oh, did he? Yeah. I don't know why. I'm wasting my time. I'm wondering what they've got.
Already changing.
See, I was watching because I noticed that they were off. I feel like they were off by 1 slide. I don't know. Susan? No, but I want to start. She might be able to give us boards off and then they have to right. So there's some stuff that people are
You know, if I
I wasn't supposed to do sound. Sound was doing sound for the user division. And some of the sound that I can do sound.
Yeah, it looks like
sound. Some of that
so that I can.
you may.
Yeah, because that's
to just have them. But again, it shouldn't. But I'm thinking it's more in the numbering. We need to make sure that the numbering, because they watch the script very carefully, right? When they click on it, like say it's just like.
It's just a matter of, like, Richard is still learning.
Whether there was an extra
You need to
slide
watch to know when to click. When, you wait until they get to here, and then you click.
But we can ask, I mean, Susan would be good, she's real good at that. Susan, you got a minute?
Yeah.
So, it seemed like the slides today were off by like one slide. Was there an extra slide for the end that messed up the numbering, or what happened?
Your picture one, where that was. I don't know if you made that.
No, it was like.
You had one where